Hello, welcome back to Hazel Jane Tarot, and today we're going to be taking a look at Lutaro Noir, which is a Marseille style tarot deck. This is not a review because I haven't worked with it yet, and it's not quite an unboxing because I have already opened it. So I guess this is a walkthrough just to show you the deck. I had put some pictures on my Instagram and a few people had been asking to get a proper look at it. So this is in response to you guys. I hope you enjoy this and find it helpful. So this deck, Lutaro Noir, is a French deck, and I was able to get it through the Amazon UK. I don't know what the supply of it is like worldwide, but the creators are Justine Tournelle and Mathieu Haquier. And as far as I can tell, Justine Tournelle is the writer and Mathieu Haquier is the artist. So it comes in this really quite big box, nice big solid box. Do the cliche tarot reader thing, give it a knock. And as you can see, all the writing is in French. So when you open the box, you've got this guidebook, which I'll show you in a little minute, which is the full size of the box. And then the deck is divided into two piles. So they were wrapped in little paper, what's the word I'm looking for? There was a bit of paper around them to keep them together, and it was in these two stacks, which is not my favorite in terms of how a deck is packaged, but look what was underneath. A bag to keep the deck in that matches perfectly. Like, it matches the kind of slightly bronzy gold of the writing on the box and the gilding. So isn't that gorgeous? So I think I might end up keeping the deck in this bag instead of in the box because of the box being a two-part stack, which is not ideal for me. So the box might end up going into the behind the sofa purgatory where all the boxes that are too big for my shelf go. But it is a lovely box, and it would look nice on a bookcase for people who have more storage space than I do. So the deck itself, I would say the one thing that I was disappointed about when I unboxed this deck is because it was cut in two batches. When you put them together, they are not the same length exactly. There's a little bit of a difference. So I haven't shuffled this yet, but my Mysteries of Mary Tarot is actually very similar. It also came in two packets, and one was a millimeter or two less than in height than the other. So when you shuffle it, instead of it having that lovely smooth edge, it is a little bit rough along the top because they're up and down slightly. I mean, it is very slight, but you can see the difference between the two stacks in the way this has been cut. It's hard to, they're quite slidey, so it's hard to hold it still so you can see. But yeah, you can see there that the top is slightly longer. The first set is slightly longer than the second. So that's a shame. And I think that is just like a side effect of when a deck is kind of cut in those two separate stacks, if you know what I mean. But it's not going to stop me using it. It's not something that I would send a deck back about, or, you know, as I say, it's happened before, and yeah, it's not a hugely big deal for me. So there's one little glitch on the gilding there on the side, but again, it's so pretty. The gilding is lovely. I love it. Anyway, so the cards are really big. They're sort of infamously big, the cards in this deck. So just to show you, so here is one card with a regular oracle card. So that's the Through the Eyes of the Soul. So that they're the same height as an oracle card, but a bit wider. And if you compare it to a regular tarot card, that is like a US Games, that's Tarot of the Abyss, you can see that it is nearly more than half as wide again and much taller than a tarot card. So they're really big. And if you read with Marseille, I guess, depending on how you go about doing your readings, like if you want to do a big spread, like say you do a 9-card spread, you would need a very big table to get 9 of these laid out. For a 3-card spread or something like that, it's pretty easy to fit on like a spread cloth, but for a bigger like a bigger spread, it would be maybe a bit tricky. So they are glossy, and you see they reflect in the light. And they're really lovely and slidey. Now I realised I had shuffled the majors because I've been studying how to read Tarot de Marseille style decks and how to read pips. More on that later. I think I'm going to do a video just on that. But the exercises I was doing last night involved working with the majors only, so I had shuffled this. So sorry, they are out of sequence. So you can see the titles are in French, and the style, and I do not own any Tarot de Marseille decks at all. So I know there's like two different kinds, or like there's like original and then people, this is definitely like a variation on the Marseille. I don't think it's exactly, like I don't have another Tarot de Marseille to compare it with, but one of the reasons I went for this deck as opposed to a more traditional one is I really like the traditional Marseille is kind of like just a couple of primary colors, and this I really enjoyed the slightly spooky, darker vibes to the art, and the colors. And I also just really like the quirkiness of the facial expressions on the characters, and I thought I would find it enjoyable to look at, whereas I think I tend to find Marseille decks a little bit boring to look at, sorry. So anyway, so this is the Magician. And one of the things I've been learning is like that the tools on the table are slightly different to what I'm used to seeing in the Rider-Waite-Smith. But anyway, I'll not get bogged down in that. I'll save that for when I do my video about reading with pips. So this is the Hanged one. Look at the face. Oh, I love it. There's something like really creepy cartoon about these characters, and the way Hakia has drawn their eyes, especially the Hermit. All these layers of the lines of colour and shading. It's lovely. So here's the Lovers. And this Death. Look at Death. Oh, it's such a scary death. I really like that. And I like that it's sort of got there's a comical quality to it. Like, it is scary, but it's also so over the top. And the face is like a mask from a drama or something, that I don't look at this and take it terribly seriously. Like, I'm able to look at that and see, oh, scary death, but in a light-hearted way, if you know what I mean. So there's Le Mat, the Fool. And the artist has done this thing of putting like both eyes on the front of the animals, so like on the horses or the dogs, so they, like a fish that has the two eyes on one side of its body, which gives them a really quirky appearance as well. Slightly freaky to look at, but I look at these horses' faces, they're just amazing. So the Chariot. Oh, the Tower was reversed. The Tower. The Empress. The Wheel of Fortune. Look at those little characters. Look at his happy little face. Yeah, so the facial expressions are so expressive. I love it. This is nearly the only kind of calm person in the major arcana. The Star is like quite chill. Justice. There's like a third eye. La Papesse, so the High Priestess. Temperance. I love this Temperance. Look how freaked out she is. Like, it's this magical, I really like in a Temperance card where the water isn't just pouring, straight down in a way that is physically possible in the real world. Like, I like when the Temperance, the angel is pouring the liquid and it's breaking the laws of physics. So this is great, like this magical pouring from and you know, maybe backwards and forwards alchemy between the two vessels, but like this angel is doesn't seem like fully in control of what's happening. Like she seems a bit freaked out, which I just love, and I love the dress, and that's all the shading on all the wings, and it's lovely. Le Pape, and look at the acolytes, their shape, really toothy shape. The Hierophant, and then we have the Sun, and we have your baby. The baby on a horse is maybe a bit bigger with a child on a horse, but look at the horse's face. It's almost like muscle, like the way they've been illustrated with the lines. It almost looks like muscle, exposed muscle. So the Sun, oh, the devil, this is awesome. Look at the devil. The devil's smiling, scary face, and these the kind of the people, the victims on the end of the puppeteer strings. There again, those kind of masks like we had on the Death character. Oh, so great. Le Jugement, the Judgment card. La Lune, the moon. Again, look at the eyes on the dogs there, and the wolf and the dog. They're kind of creepy, but like funny at the same time. La Force, strength, and another, the face of the lion. The Emperor, who's quite chilled out compared to some of the other characters, and Le Monde, the world. So the majors are lovely. So I'll show you a look at the rest. Now these haven't been shuffled, so they're in the order that they came in. So we have these big Monty Python-esque, I mean, obviously Monty Python came after, you know, the tarot. So maybe they were slightly inspired by the hand of God that we see in the tarot, but I know it came after, but it just makes me think of Monty Python when I see the, you know, the big hand coming out of the sky, and the you know, this rather meaty looking club. You know, it looks like a severed limb. So with the Ace of Wands, the Ace of Swords, the Ace of Cups. I mean, I just really like the shading of the colour, and the Ace of Pentacles. And now the courts are in order of, with the kings first, I think. So the King of Wands, the King of Swords, the King of Cups, and the King of Pentacles. He's like, what is that? It's like a spaceship coming into land. He seems a bit skeptical about it. Then we have the Queen of Wands. He looks a bit sad. The Queen of Swords. Well, maybe they all look a bit sad. The Queen of Cups. And the Queen of Pentacles. She looks so startled. Like, what even is this? Look at her sumptuous costume. I love her. Then we have the Knight of Wands, and they're on these creepy horses again. The Knight of Wands, the Knight of Swords, the Knight of Cups, and the Knight of Pentacles. And then we have the Page, or the Valet, the Page of Wands, the Page of Swords, the Page of Cups. Look at his little face. Like, I think I would have to try not to let how kind of sad or startled the characters look affect my readings with this deck. The Page of Cups and the Page of Pentacles. And then the pip cards are quite classic, I think. I mean, I don't know if the decorations, like the florals and so on, are strictly traditional in their arrangement, but to me, to the untrained eye, they look quite traditional, and I like how clean the backgrounds are. And it's easy to see and count how many you're looking at. So we've got our wands. 5, 6, and there's a number on it as well, which I like, so you can easily see how many you're dealing with. 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then the swords, which are these curved lines. So 2, the 3, so we've got like a more traditional sword up the middle. 4, 5, 6, 7. There's like kind of a pinky, like it's almost like rose gold or something, the coloration on some of this. The 8, 9, and 10. And then the cups, we've got the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then the pentacles. We've got 2. So they've got the writers' names, Ternel and Hakier, 2012-2013. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So I have to say, like, I'm not a person who's going to ever get really blown away by the beauty of a pip card, but I think they're nice pips, and I think the majors and the quartz art are really cool. So I'm really happy with that to work with. And then that's the back design. So it is reversible. As I've been studying Marseille and reading pips over the last month or so, there's been a bit of controversy in some of the sources, and different people have been talking to as to whether you use Marseille with reversals. So I think it's one of those things of, you know, you can if you want, but you don't have to, same as with tarot generally. But the backs on this are reversible if you wanted to read it with reversals. So this is my first kind of proper, well, close to proper Marseille style deck. So the book is in French, and it is a lovely kind of coffee table book style. I'll show you. The pages are all black, and the only way I've been able to read this is using Google Translate. So if you download the Google Translate app onto your phone, and then when you go to input, the sort of little input section, you can select camera, and then you can hold your camera over the page of text or a paragraph of text if you're holding it sideways, to zoom in a bit closer. And it will, on your screen, translate the text for you. So you can kind of read it live in translation. Now, it is a bit, you know, visually it can be a bit patchy as it sort of superimposes the English words over the top of the French on your screen. And the translation will not be, you know, as good as a translation that a person would do, but it can give you the general sense of what it's about. So what I've read so far, this guidebook is set up not as a tarot guidebook for divination purposes. It doesn't really write about tarot reading or about, you know, this card means this in a reading. It's more about Tarot de Marseille as a game, and it talks you through some of the kind of symbolism, as in these cards depict medieval life kind of thing. So I'll zoom out a wee bit more, sorry, so you can see the book a bit better. So for each card in the majors, you get a full page, and the illustration is larger than the size of the cards themselves. So you get a lovely big illustration, and then the write-up, I've read a few of these. So it talks here, for example, about the wandering madman, or the idea of a sort of a wandering fool in medieval society, and what that what connotations that had in the society at the time, and the bateleur, it talks here about juggling, like that there being juggling balls and tools for entertainment and doing magical tricks, and this idea of like maybe a traveling trickster or, you know, entertainer. So the magician not being like a ceremonial magician like we see in the Rider-Waite-Smith, but like a magician as in like an entertainer. So that sense of sleight of hand and so on, but they're not talking about it as a divinatory meaning. They're talking about what we see in the card, what that says about like where this maybe originated out of the society from which Marseille was created. So I haven't read all of these entries yet. It is a bit of a slower process and not as enjoyable to read when you're reading it through your Google Translate. But so we have all the black background paper and then these full-size illustrations of each card. So that's nice, and I'm looking forward to actually getting a proper read through all of this, because in terms of studying Marseille, I think this is quite interesting, you know, talking about it as a game. Like it even mentions things like, oh, this card would have been a top scoring trump. It doesn't give you the rules to how to play with the deck as a card game, but it's, you know, it's more suggestive of that. And then when we go into the minors, there is description of the 3 aces, or the 4 aces, sorry, and then we get a little bit of a general write-up on the kings, and then we have your 4 kings, the queens, and then your 4 queens, lovely big illustrations, the cavaliers or cavalier, and then their pictures, and then the valets, the pages, and their pictures. So as I say, I haven't read the whole book, but the general impression I got was that it talks about Tarot de Marseille as a game rather than as a divination tool. And then the rest of the book is just these lovely big pictures of the minors. So it is like a kind of a coffee table book. And when I think about, you know, the size of the cards, I think it's partly because it's maybe not envisioned initially as a reading deck, but as a, you know, like as a nice collectible art item, you know, like an example of this is tarot, you know, this is what they look like kind of thing. But it is a readable deck. And I once I've sort of got through my exercises learning how to work with Tarot de Marseille and pips, I will be using this to do some practice readings and so on. So I really like it. I think it's kind of that good mixture of the traditional imagery, but with the quirky originality of the art and the facial expressions and the colours that make it a nice deck. And I think for Halloween, as it being my Halloween purchase this year, the dark colour scheme sort of seems to fit with with the time of year. So if you've been watching, thank you for watching all the way to the end. And if you've got Lutaro Noir, if you work with it already, I know some people have trimmed it. I don't think I'm going to, because I quite like the black borders and I quite like the gilding, so I don't think I'm going to trim it. But if you have the deck, if you've been working with it as a reading deck, or if you speak French and have read the whole guidebook, I'd love to hear what you have to say about it in the comments below. So thanks for watching. Bye.